Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update. I'm your host for today's program, Paul Demain. Many of the stories read here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. Here are the news stories for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. A 37-year-old Topeka, Kansas man has been sentenced to more than 6 years in prison for firing shots at a tribal police officer and wounding the officer's dog. John Bradshaw was sentenced May 22nd for leading Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation police officer John Hurla on an 8-mile car chase after the officer tried to stop him in December for having an illegal license plate. The chase ended when Bradshaw's car bottomed out on a gravel road. Bradshaw then shot and wounded Hurla's police dog. When Bradshaw fired shots at Hurla, the officer returned fire before Bradshaw surrendered. Hurla wasn't hurt, and Bradshaw sustained minor injuries. Bradshaw was convicted in April on several charges, including attempted intentional second-degree murder and eluding a law enforcement officer. The Nebraska Supreme Court is expected to hear arguments soon on whether the state's legal procedures can trump a federal law that allows tribes to intervene in child welfare cases. In an appeal filed with the High Court, the Ponca tribe says a Dakota County juvenile court judge denied its rights under the Indian Child Welfare Act because the tribe was not represented by a state-recognized attorney. The federal law provides that tribes can intervene in any state child custody proceeding that involves their children, said the tribe's Denver, Colorado-based attorney, Brad Jolly. If a tribe has to have a lawyer in each of those cases, they won't be able to intervene. For most tribes, the cost of having an attorney appear in each and every child welfare case is prohibitive, he said. The Indian Child Welfare Act provides tough standards for removing American Indian children from their homes. Congress passed the law in 1978 to curb a rise in adoptions of Indian children by non-Indians. In some states, 35% or more of Indian children had been removed from their homes to live with non-natives. The Utah Supreme Court will hear arguments during June by Navajo Nation officials who want to undo a Salt Lake City couple's adoption of 2 children. Ricardo and Susie Ramos adopted the children, now 3 and 9, in the year 2008. 2 weeks after it was approved, the Navajo Nation appealed. Tribal officials say the children born to a Navajo woman and a Latino man, who both had their parental rights terminated, should be returned to the reservation so a tribal court can decide who should care for them. They say state officials violated the Indian Child Welfare Act by failing to give the Navajo Nation adequate notice of the adoption plans. The Ramos family's attorney, Wesley Hutchin, argues the Navajo Nation is raising concerns far too late in the process. Philip Cloud Pyler Landis was raised a Mormon in western Washington and didn't think much about what he considers his American Indian heritage until he went to prison. Landis now leads the Neemanha Band, an internet-based group recently thrown into the spotlight when one of its members fled with her cancer-stricken son to avoid chemotherapy. Landis has never met Colleen Hauser or her 13-year-old son Daniel and urged them to return home, which they have recently. But he supports the Hausers' decision to defy the recommendations of doctors who he says may be the high priest of the medical religion, but who are spiritually bankrupt. The attention on Landis concerns some in the field of alternative medicine. American Indian groups also have expressed misgivings about Landis and his group. There are a lot of sham artists around like these guys, and they ultimately disrespect Indian people and Indian nations and Indian organizations like the Native American Church, said Stephen Moore, senior attorney for the Native American Rights Fund in Boulder, Colorado. Colleen Hauser joined the Neemanha a few months ago as her son dealt with cancer. On its website, the group suggests members pay an initial $250 fee and then $100 annually, plus regular monthly offerings. The site does not appear to espouse any particular type of alternative therapy. The group's rituals include the use of sweat lodges and sacred breaths, said Landis, who does not advocate the use of peyote, which is used by the Native American Church of North America, but he says the Neemanha Band is an affiliate of another group called the Native American Church. Moore, however, says Landos does not have any affiliation with a legitimate, valid Native American church chapter or organization anywhere in the United States. The Neeman came together about 10 years ago in central Utah by a group of women who felt they had a calling, Landis said. He said he was elected principal medicine chief in part because of his claim to be related to Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce. But Julie Kane, managing attorney for the Nez Perce in Idaho, said Landis is not Nez Perce, and the tribe asked him to stop using references to it several years ago. He's not at all Nez Perce, she said. He's not even a descendant. In a museum gift shop at the Yakima Reservation, Wendell Hannigan shows off a small bronze statue of a Native American woman holding a basket full of hops. Asked if there are Yakima farm workers left, the 66-year-old Yakima Nation member laughs and says, "No, no." Behind the laughs, though, is Hannigan's conviction that the large influx of illegal Latino immigrants into his reservation, about 160 miles southeast of Seattle, Washington, pose a threat to his people. His beliefs have prompted Hannigan to spearhead efforts for better supervision of undocumented workers, mostly from Mexico, on the reservation, and to help sponsor a state ballot initiative to impose stricter immigration rules in the state of Washington. The 1.2 million acre reservation was formed in 1855 after 14 tribes were banded together in a treaty signed with the United States government. The state estimates that there are about 100,000 Latino residents in Yakima County now, which includes the reservation. In contrast, there are about 8,500 Native Americans in the area as well. Maine author Ed Rice is going to the Baseball Hall of Fame, where he will moderate a panel addressing the role of Native Americans in Major League Baseball. Rice is the author of baseball's first Indian, Louis Sockalex's Penobscot legend, Cleveland Indian. He says Sockalexis, who grew up on Maine's Indian Island and played for the Cleveland Indians in 1897, was the first Native American to play in the big leagues. Rice will speak at the Hall of Fame's annual symposium on baseball and American culture, which examines baseball impact on American culture. The event is scheduled for June 3rd through the 5th. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank all our underwriters for helping us with this broadcast, and you for joining with us again. Come back again and have a great day. Miigwech.